Hello, our most valued student. My name is Confident. Welcome to the revision of the Mathematics N2 question paper. And this question paper was written in November 2020. So just to recap, this is a Department of Higher Education and Training. It is Mathematics N2. It is a national certificate. And this is the code for Mathematics N2 as I'm going through the paper. It was written on the 19th, as you can see, of November 2020, and it is a morning paper. By X means it is a morning paper, and it is a 3-hour paper from 9 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon. And then the following were the requirements of this paper. You needed 2 sheets of graph paper, and they are you are provided with this particular graph paper in the exam, so you don't need to worry. You will be given this kind of graph paper, and it says calculators may be used. You actually definitely need a scientific calculator for this. And then says this question paper consists of 6 pages and 2 formula sheets, and it had this unique code for that particular exam, which is shown on the screen. Now let us look at a few instructions, and I will always encourage students to go through the instructions because sometimes it carries some relevant information which you need to know. Most of the students usually are eager to start answering the question papers before they go through the answers, through the instructions. Now remember, you are usually given between 10 to 5 minutes just to go through your paper, to browse through your paper, to have an idea what it is talking about. So it is important for you to be early for your exam so that you get that 10 minutes or 5 minutes just to go through your paper and use that time to read the instructions. And then, as I said, this is a DHET paper, and the information again is given here that it is a 3-hour paper, and the total mark allocation for this paper is 100 marks. So looking at the few instructions given on the paper, it says, number 1, answer all the questions. For you to get the full marks, you need to answer all the questions, and then says read all the questions carefully. It is standard. Now number the answers according to the numbering system used in this question paper. So remember, do not come with your own numbering system. You need to use the exact numbering system as shown in the question paper. And then it says show all your intermediate steps. This is also important. In other ways, they are saying do not leave out any working. Some of the students usually they do their working on that question paper and they forget to take that same working into the final answer script. So please be careful not to leave out some important intermediate steps. Even if the step you feel like it is irrelevant, it is better to write it, and it might actually score you some marks even if you make an error in your final answer. And then it says you need to leave your answer in a simplified form where possible. And then the pen that you need to use, though it looks common, but some students end up bringing some different pens, you need to strictly use a blue or a black ink. And then you need to write neatly and legibly, meaning you need to be neat with your work, and your work must be clear to follow. Now let us start our question paper with question number 1, as you can see on the screen there. And question number 1 was in total out of 3 marks, and it says 1.1.1, or the whole of question number 1 says solve the following equations. So which means question 1.1 was dealing with equations, and the first equation, as you can see, you are given there. And if I can just expand further, so this is the equation that we are given, and you are supposed to solve this kind of an equation. Now if it says by, they give you a condition there, you need to solve it by factorization. Don't use any other method beside factorization. So now if I can write the problem again, it says you're given minus x squared plus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. Now I just don't want to work it different from this. I'm just going to work it as it is, and I'm going to use the product sum method. Some of you might not be aware what I mean by that, but you can always get this method where I teach it in my Mathematics N2 for the underdogs, where I explain in detail this method. So in the product sum method, first thing, I take the first two, the first part and the last part, I multiply them. It gives me my product. So the product there is equal to, it's minus 2 times minus x squared, which will give me a positive 2x squared. So that's my product, and now my sum is what is remaining, which is in the center, and in this case my sum is positive 3x. So as you can see, the sum means plus a sum of two numbers means add those two numbers. A product of two numbers means multiply those two numbers. That's why in the product I multiply it, and in the sum it is the center number. Then I am looking for two numbers which when I multiply them I will get a positive 2, and when I add them I get a positive 3. In other words, I'm looking for the factors. In this case, I'm looking for the factors of 2. So you must focus on your product, that is the number there, which is a 2. In other ways, what are the factors of 2, or ways of getting a 2? It is 1 times 2. So 1 times 2 will give me a 2. Now remember, I need two numbers which when I multiply them I must get a 2, and when I add them I must get a 3. So you can see, if I multiply 1 times 2 I'm getting a 2, and if I add 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2, I'm getting a 3. So these two numbers satisfy what I need. So when I've done that, I can therefore in a way move on to say, this then becomes, if I can take it there, it is minus x squared. So now when there was a 1, you just put an x with a positive. Remember, the two numbers must be positive. So it's a positive 1x and a positive 2x. So where there is a 3x, I'm going to add these two numbers, which will be plus 1x plus 3x. This, plus 2x in this case. These two numbers, remember, when I multiply them I get a 2, and when I add them they will still give me a 3, and then it's minus a 2. When I have done that, I have to factorize. Now it is factorizing by grouping. That's why they say by factorization. So I've considered the first two, and I also consider the last two numbers. Now in the first two numbers you can see what is common, minus x squared and 1x. It is actually x which is common, and if I say x into minus x squared, it is negative x plus 1. And again in the second one it is 2 which is common, which is 2 and x minus 1. So that is what I'm having. Now if ever I want to now further factorize, I have to match the two brackets. You can see I've got in the first bracket x is negative, and in the second bracket x is positive. So the first thing I can do, I've got two options to do, is either I take a negative in the first one. So if I take out a negative x in the first one, I will interchange the bracket. If it was negative x, now it is positive because of that negative I took out, and a positive 1 will become negative 1, like that. And then it's you write the second part as is, because I didn't change anything. So now when you have done that, if you look carefully, you can see now that the brackets, what is inside the bracket is now the same. And then you can therefore conclude to say this is equal to, in brackets it is x minus 1, and outside the brackets it is minus x plus 2. So this is how you could have solved that. Sometimes you might be comfortable to say, if you don't want to remain with that negative, you can actually take it out to say this is equal to negative, and you'll have x minus 1. But now since you are taking it from the second bracket, so you are going to have the negative x will become positive, and the positive 2 will become a negative 2. So this is how you can actually simplify that. So now this is what they meant when they say factorize, solve for x. Actually, remember, it is I think I'm missing it out there. They said we need to solve for x, so you need to give in your equal sign. So in which case, if I was solving for x, I did not need to do that. I was supposed to do it when I was just factorizing, but now since I'm solving for x, what I need to do is then to say, therefore x minus 1 is equal to 0, or the second bracket is minus x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then after that, you equate 1 to the other side, which is x is equal to a 1, or minus x is equal to, the 2 will go this side to become a negative 2. You divide by negative 1. Remember, you must remain with a positive x. When you do that, you'll have therefore x is equal to, a negative will cancel a negative to give you a 2. So in this case, you have got two values of x. The first value of x is equal to 1, and the second value of x is equal to 2. Now you can actually prove this is not part of the working. It is when you want to prove if your answer is correct, just for you to have an idea to say was your answer correct. So what you do is you go to the original, which is your minus x squared plus 3x minus 2 is equal to 0. So you've got two values of x, the first one and the second one. So in the first one, where there is x, you'll say minus 1 squared when x is 1 plus 3 into 1 minus 2. You'll get the answer. And in the second one, you will have when x is 2 minus 2 squared plus 3 into 2 minus 2. So if I use my calculator in this 2, it must give me a 0. So if I say minus, my first, remember, answer is 1 squared plus 3 into 1 minus 2. You can see that it gives me a 0. If I play back, where there is 1, I put a 2, and where there is that 1, I also put a 2. It is also giving me, if I say equal to, it gives me a 0. It means my two answers in that case, they are correct. Now let us move on to the next one. We are also solving for solve the following equations. We are still on the same question, but this is question 1.1.2, and if you can see, it is also 3 marks. So these were good 3 marks for you to work on. Now if I can look at this question, I'm given, in this case, if you study it carefully, you have got two brackets. The first one is 2 minus m, and the second one is 4 minus m. So for me to be able then to simplify these, I need to open these brackets, whereby I have to distribute 6 in the first bracket. 6 will multiply there, and 6 will multiply there. Same thing with negative 5. Remember, this is not just 5, it is minus 5 will multiply there, and minus 5 will multiply there. So that is the first step I need to do. So when I do that, it will be 6 times 2 in this case, and then plus 6 times negative m, then minus 5 times 4, and then minus 5 times negative m. Then this gives me 7. Now 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times minus m, there is a 1, there is like you're saying 6 times minus 1, which is minus 6. You just retain the m. Minus 5 times 4, the negative is power over the positive, so it will become a negative 20. Minus 5 times minus m, as I said, there is a negative 1, so it's minus 5 times minus 1, a negative and a negative, it's a positive, so it's positive 5, and you return the m. This will give me 7. After that, I have to collect my like terms. You can see I've got that with m and that with m. Take all the numbers to the other side of the equal sign. When you have done that, you will remain with minus 6m plus 5m is equal to 7. Now the 12 will become minus 12 because it was positive. The negative 20 will become a positive 20. And then having done that, you can then even use a calculator if the negative and positive is confusing you. Now minus 6m plus 5m is same as saying minus 6 plus 5. The answer you're getting is minus 1. So you'll have minus 1, then you return the m is equal to, you use a calculator again on the other side, which is 7 minus 12 plus 20, which is giving us 15 there. Now you can see that your answer is still having a negative. You don't need a negative in your answer. Then you have to divide both sides by negative 1 so that you'll cancel out that negative. And lastly, you will have your m is equal to negative 15. So because 15, which is positive, divided by negative, it will become a negative. So now you'll get, therefore, your m is equal to 15. Now, as I said before, it is always important with equations. You can test your answers to see if you're correct. So what you do is, wherever there is an m, remember it says your m is 15. So wherever there is an m, actually your m is negative 15. So wherever there is an m, you put minus 15. And where there is an m, I put minus 15. And then you use your calculator as it is, so that the answer that you get must be equal to 7. So the way you enter it, you say 6 in brackets, 2 minus, and then remember our x is negative 15. So it's always good to put a bracket, but even if you don't put a bracket, the calculator will give you the answer. Then after that, I've got minus 5 and the bracket, 4 minus, and then minus 15. If I close the bracket and I say equal to, you see it is giving me a 7. But the right way to do it, as I said, it was for you to protect when there are two negatives. You put a bracket, and you have to you open a bracket and you close it. Even here, I had to open a bracket, and after 15 I have to close the bracket. This was the right way of doing it, and you can see that your answer still maintains as 7. So again, you can test if you are correct, and with an equation it becomes actually much easier, because you take that value that you get, put it in the original, and then the left hand side must balance with the right hand side. Let us move on to the next question. Now this is question 1.2, and it says given the formula. So we are given this particular formula in question 1.2, and then 1.2.1 says make R by factorization the subject of the formula. So it was I think here it's a typing error there, but the question actually was supposed to read make R not by, it's make R the subject of the formula in this case, but it's fine. Let us see if ever it does make sense to say by factorization. It was 3 marks, in as much as the question might not be properly typed, but it says we need to focus on r in that case. And if I expand that, so this is what I'm given. If I can write it, I'm given P is equal to, that 3 means cube root of r squared minus q squared. Now my focus there is I need to focus on r. Now this cube, I can write it as P is equal to, now the cube root is same as saying you put that bracket. To remove the sign for the cube root, it is same as saying 1 to the power 1 over 3. That is what the cube root means. These are the laws of exponents that you need to know. And as again, you need to get hold of my videos and my textbook for Mathematics N2 for the underdogs, where I simply show the rules here. So it is exponential laws that I'm using here, whereby the cube is this, the cube root is same as saying to the power 1 over 3. Now I've got r squared minus q squared. So to change that cube root, you have to say power 1 over 3. Now for me now to get rid of this power 1 over 3, I have to multiply by power 3 over 1. So that you can see that that cancels to give me a power 1, which can be ignored as a bracket that you can open. But remember, what you do on the left hand side, you also do on the right hand side. Under P, it means initially we have P to the power 1 there. We have P to the power 1. So you also multiply 1 times 3 over 1 on your left hand side. So what you'll be having now is P to the power of 3, because 1 times 3 over 1 is a 3, is equal to r squared minus q squared. I think you can see how we managed to remove the root, which is the cube root, and then after that, when you have managed to separate that, you are able then to take the minus q to join the p. Remember, your focus is r, so you're going to have your p cubed. The negative q will become the plus q squared is equal to r squared. Now when you have done that, again, as I said, your focus is r. How do you get rid of that r squared? So for you to get rid of the r squared, the square part, as you can see, it's a 2. You can multiply by 1 over 2, which is a fraction there. But what you do on the left, you must do on the right. But on the right now, because of the positive sign, you must put a bracket and multiply everything which is to the power 1 times 1 over 2. So what you will then have is p cubed plus q squared is equal to, actually remember I have a bracket there. Now 1 times 1 over 2, it will be power 1 over 2 is equal to r to the power 1. So basically this can become the answer. As you can see, you have remained with r. But this is the same as saying square root of p cubed plus q squared. So what I'm saying here is, from this stage, if I can write it here, from this stage where you had p cubed plus q squared is equal to r squared, from this stage you can actually it is the same way. If you're saying times 1 over 2, it is the same way in saying square root and square root. It is the same way. Now when you are saying square root and square root, you have to say plus or minus on the other side. So this will be plus or minus square root of p cubed plus q squared. Therefore it is equal to r. So that is that, which means we also needed to put a plus or minus in that part. So this is also the same way of doing the previous method. They will still give you all your marks. So that is how you solve for R to solve for R in that case. And then it says given the formula, so this is 1.2.2, it is 1 mark. It says now calculate the value of R if P is equal to 4 and Q is equal to 6. So if you can see much clearer, they are saying we need to find the value of R. But remember, we have R in this case and our R was that. Now they are saying we need to find the value of R if P is 4 and Q is equal to 6. So what they are saying is wherever there is a P, we can just put the values here. Where there is a P, it is equal to 4, and where there is a Q, it is equal to 6. So what you do, you just substitute now. In this case, you are going to have plus or minus square root of, now P is same as saying bracket 4 cubed plus bracket 6 squared, which was in this case, as you say, it is our R. And then when you do that, you'll have a square root of 4 cubed plus 6 squared. So this is basically what when you substitute, and you can see that we get a 10. So you say plus or minus 10 is equal to R. Just that they did not explain what was R, but usually if it is the radius, then you're only going to focus on the positive there. So that is how you solve these two questions. And then let us look at question 1.3. Question 1.3 says we need to solve for x and y in the following simultaneous equation. So this is a simultaneous equation, and simultaneous means you have to work them together at the same time. This is 4 marks. Again, there are ways of solving this equation. I'm going to focus on 2 different methods of solving these simultaneous equations. And then the first one, I will use the elimination method. Elimination. So if you method here. So with elimination method, I've got 2 of my, I can just expand there. So this is what I'm having. So what I have, I've got 2 equations. The first equation is saying, now let me take, just to make it easier and standard, let me take the variables be on the right hand side and the numbers on the left hand side. Actually, the variables on the left hand side and the numbers on the right hand side. In other words, what I'm saying is the y here will join the x, such that I have 5x minus 6y, then it is equal to 3. And then that becomes my equation 1. And I'm going to arrange the second equation so that it matches the first equation. In other ways, I will have to start with x. You can see start with minus 4x there. So I'll have minus 4x. And then the next one is 3y, which is a positive 3y, is equal to, the 1 will cross there to become minus 1. And then you get a 2. I think that is where they started by trying to confuse you there. Because if you're going to do the elimination method, make sure that the left hand side of the first equation is equal to the left hand side. The format of the left hand side is also equal to, is the same as the format of the left hand side of the second equation. As you can see, the x starts and the y follows. Even in the second equation, the x starts and the y follows. After that, there is an equal sign, and after that, it's the numbers. Now, if I'm going to use the elimination method, I have to focus on one number. One variable. So don't focus on both x and y, but you need to focus on one of them. For example, If I want to eliminate x, I'm going to focus on 5x first. So you put a times multiplication in 5x and a multiplication in minus 4x. So I must make sure that I look at, in this case, the lowest common multiple of 4 and 5. In other words, I'm looking for the number which when I multiply 5 with and when I multiply 4 with, it will give me the same number. For example, if I say 5 times 4 and I say 4 times 5, you will see what is going to happen with after multiplying. Remember, each and every one is multiplied. So you're going to multiply that by 4, you multiply that by 4, you multiply that by 4. So it is 5 times 4, you have got 20x, and then after that 6 minus 6 times 4 is minus 24y is equal to 3 times 4 is a 12. You do the same thing with the second one. 5 times minus 4 is a negative 20x, and as I said here, you are multiplying also by 5, everything by 5, everything by 5, and then I've got 5 times 3. In this case, it is positive 15y, and this is equal to 5 times minus 1, it is equal to minus 5. Now, if you see something interesting, you have got 20x and minus 20x. So the aim was to make the x on the first equation, the coefficient of x on the first equation become similar to the coefficient of x on the second equation. Don't worry with the signs, but you can see that there is a 20x and a 20x in the first and the second equation. After that, you have to rule off, and then if you use your calculator, you can see that if I take, in this case, I've got 20x minus 20x, it gives me a 0. You can see that I've eliminated, that's what they mean by elimination. I've eliminated x. So it will be 20x minus 20x, it's a 0. And then I can take my calculator. So in other ways, I'm just adding these two. So in these two equations, like this, I'm going to add them. So it's 20x plus, as you can see, it will be 20 plus bracket minus 20, and I got a 0. Same thing, minus 24 plus, and then I've got plus 15. Even if you don't put a plus, nothing will change. And you can see I'm getting a negative 9 similarly, and then it's a negative 9. Similarly, it's 12 plus minus 5, and I'm getting a 7. So in here we have got negative 9y is equal to a positive 7. You divide both sides by what you don't want. The coefficient of y there is negative 9 and negative 9, so that if you continue that, you're going to have y is equal to 7 over 9, but it's negative 7 over 9. When you have done that, you have to go to one of the original equations so that you can find x. Let's say the first one, which is 5x is equal to 6y plus 3. So you write it and say 5x is equal to 6y plus 3. And in this particular case, we know what is the value of y. It is minus 7 over 9. So we have got 5 is equal to 6 minus 7 over 9, which is my y, plus 3. And then if you take a calculator again to say 6 times minus 7 over 9 plus 3, I'm getting minus 5 over 3. So if that gives me, it's 5x is equal to minus 5 over 3, then I can divide by 5 on both sides. Again, I can rely on my calculator to say, in this case, remember I've got a negative 5 over 3, and in this case I can use divided by, is divided by 5, which is negative 1 over 3, or I've got that, which you play down and you put also a fraction there. And you need to be careful. Let me do it again. So I've got a fraction, which is a fraction actually on top, which is negative 5 over 3, and then you've got divided by 5 like that. You've got negative 1 over 3. So x is minus 1 over 3. So with these two values, remember x is minus 1 over 3 and y is minus 7 over 9, you can actually test your answers. You go back to the second original equation. In the second original equation, you remind yourself to say y is equal to minus, you go back again, you say minus 7 over 9, and x is equal to minus 1 over 3. Now you're going to substitute where there is y, you put that, and where there is x, you put that. When you substitute the y and the x and you say plus 1, we must get the right hand side, which is a 0. So we are trying to prove that. So if you take your calculator, always substitute in the original equation. The second one, remember the one that we used to find the x, we mustn't use it, we must use the second one. So you say 3 times y is negative, it is 7 over 9, and then minus 4, can put a bracket, is negative 1 over 3. If I say plus 1, you can see it says equal to 0, so I must also get a 0. You can see that I'm getting a 0. Therefore, it means my values of x and y, they are correct in that case. Now, that is the first method. Now, if you look at the second method, it is called the substitution method. So they made it 4 marks and it was having some fractions, and most of the students sometimes they confuse fractions. That's why it might have been a little bit difficult. So now with the substitution method, what you need to do, you are given first equation, you've got 5x is equal to 6y plus 3. That's equation 1. And the second equation, you have got 3y minus 4x plus 1 is equal to 0. So you've got these two equations. I'm going to focus on the first equation. So I'll call this equation 1, I call that equation 2. But you must do the same thing and say this, put the dots and say this is equation 1, this is equation 2. So now from 1, remember I have got 5x. So if I divide by 5 on the left hand side, I will divide each one by 5 plus 3 over 5. Because of the positive, I must divide or distribute 5 in each and every item, such that I will have now my x is equal to 6 over 5 y plus 3 over 5. So we call this our equation 3. What I then do, I take equation 3 in this case it will say equation 3 into equation 2. So if I go to my equation 2, and you can see that my equation 2 says 3y minus 4 is 3y minus 4x. But remember, I've got my value for x, and this is my value for x, which I will substitute there. So minus 4 bracket 6 over 5y plus 3 over 5, and then says plus 1 is equal to 0. So this method is called substituting by that arrow, because where there is an x, I'm substituting with the where there is x, I substitute with the value of x under equation 3. So that's why they call it substitution method. After I've done the substitution method and substituted, I need to expand and solve for y. In other ways, you open that bracket such that you have got 3y, then you multiply that, it will give you minus 24. 6 times 4 is 24 over 5y, and then minus 4 times 3 over 5, it is minus 12 over 5, plus 1 is equal to 0. Now you collect your like terms, the y remain on one side, and the numbers on the other side of the equal sign. So you'll have your 3y minus 24 over 5y is equal to 12 over 5 minus 1. When you've done that, then you will have which is 3 minus 24 over 5, it is minus 9 over 5. Y there is equal to, do the same thing and say 12 over 5 minus 1, and it is 7 over 5. Now when you have done that, it's up to you how you want to solve for x, but for y, you can actually multiply this side by minus 5 over 9, and you multiply this side by minus 5 over 9, or you divide by minus 9 over 5. Whatever way you are multiplying, the 5 and the 5 will cancel, the negative and the negative will neutralize, the 9 and the 9 will cancel. You can see that now you are remaining with y is equal to, the 5 will cancel, 7 times, there is a 1 there, 7 times minus 1, it is negative 7 over 9. Remember, it is the similar one that we got there, and then from there you are going to take the value of y is minus 7 over 9, and you go to equation 3 here. Now in equation 3, where there is y, remember we are saying x. If I can do this here, just to divide here, we are saying x is equal to 6 over 5 y plus 3 over 5, but we know our value for y, so x is equal to 6 over 5 minus 7 over 9, right, plus 3 over 5. And again, the calculator in this case will always give you the final answer. So you've got 6 over 5 and bracket minus 7 over 9, alright, plus 3 over 5. It must give us that answer minus 1 over 3. So we've got our x in this case here. X is equal to minus 1 over 3, and this answer, it is similar to the first answer that we, the x value that we got in the first working whereby it was x equal to minus 1 over 3. So these are two ways that you can solve your simultaneous equation, your simultaneous by elimination method or by substitution method. Now, if you check carefully in this particular question, if I'm not mistaken, this particular question was, look at the total marks there. It says there is a 14 there, meaning it is the end of question number 1 and it was out of 14 marks. And all these questions were involving solving for x, and also on the simultaneous, you needed to solve for y. Now, I hope this lesson was of benefit to you. We have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you.